Hello. I just wanted to share some thoughts I had after reading the book of Jonah, and I believe God's speaking to me prophetically for us as a church. Now, Jonah was sent to the city of Nineveh, and as we know, he didn't really want to go there, but he got there through a whale swallowing him up and him being vomited on the shore. And then he went to Nineveh and he brought a prophetic word about that God was going to destroy the city. And we read that when the king of Nineveh heard this, he decreed that he and the people of Nineveh should fast and pray. And in chapter 3, verse 10, we read that when God saw that they had what they had done and how they had put a stop to their evil ways, he changed his mind and he didn't carry out the destruction he threatened. And Jonah, in the meantime, went up and sat himself on a hill and waited to watch the destruction of Nineveh and the outcome of the word that he brought. And it didn't happen. And when it didn't happen, he began to get very, very angry. He got very hot on this hill, and God provided a big leafy flower which he sat under. And then the next day, God sent a worm that ate this leafy flower. And what's more, we read that he sent a storm, and the sun grew hot and beat down on Jonah's head, and Jonah became very, very distraught. And he said, "Death is certainly better than living like this." And God said to Jonah in chapter 4, verse 9, "Is it right for you to be angry because the plant died?" "Yes," Jonah retorted, "even angry enough to die." And then the Lord said, "You feel sorry about the plant, though you did nothing to put it there. It came quickly and it died quickly. But Nineveh has more than 120,000 people living in spiritual darkness, not to mention all the animals. Shouldn't I feel sorry for such a great city?" And I really felt God speaking to me about the way that we have plans, we have thoughts in our minds and things that we think God is speaking to us that should happen, and it doesn't always work out the way that we think it should do. And indeed, it speaks quite clearly about God knowing the plans for us in Jeremiah, and plans to bring us a hope and a future. But sometimes when we're in the middle of it and things aren't working out the way that we feel they should, we get very cross and angry and despondent and wretched, and we may even turn our eyes from God. But what we have to know is that God's plan is much bigger than our plan, and he's the Alpha and the Omega, and he sees the beginning and the end. So some of the things that are happening or not happening because as you think they should at the moment, I believe that God is speaking quite clearly and saying, you need to look and see what I am saying, because I have a much better plan, a much bigger plan. Because what we read is that God's heart was for the 120,000 people who were living in spiritual darkness. And God's heart is always, always for the people who do not know him and do not love him. And we, the people of God, have been sent to those people to bring hope and life into their situation. So as part of our walk with God, when we seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, things might not always work out quite how we think, but one thing we can be assured of is that God has a plan. And I just want to encourage you to seek him again, because it may seem in these days when we just haven't got a clue, and even the government is changing its mind from time to time, from week to week, it seems, about its plans. But one thing we can be 100% certain of is that God's plans will succeed. So I just leave you with that thought.